See, you're not supposed to start out by laughing.
Because he said it real fast.
It's going.
It's going. It's going. It's going.
Going.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
What's up? We're going to let you guys get on. Go ahead and share. As you click on here, go ahead and share the live and invite some people. Tonight we have a really good discussion that we're going to be having.
That's messed up, man.
His eyes got big.
What are you doing? Okay, y'all.
Be informative as we normally have.
Right. So, welcome. The gang's all here. You have been seeing the post. We are here in the studio together, live. It's been a while since we've been together.
All of us. Yeah.
All of us. I mean, we be together, y'all. Don't get it twisted. Off camera, we're together, but on camera, it's been a while since we have done that.
Yeah.
Looks like we got, who's that, DeVell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
hey. DeVell. Who's, you said that like you know?
From the remember they went with us to the night out.
Oh,
to the cooking class.
Are you talking about Nelly and
Jason is watching.
Yeah,
it says Mace. It says.
Yeah,
Is that how she spells it? That's how you spell it.
That's not.
That looks like that's y'all. I know.
It's
It is.
It is.
Okay,
It
wait a
is.
minute.
I see the picture.
Oh,
I mean, it's little,
She said she was going to be on tonight.
Oh, good. Yay. So thanks for tuning in. As you can see, we are off the hook already. We hadn't even started to talk about anything. But if you can go ahead and something went wrong. Let's try this again.
What's up, Jason?
Let me go to my homepage. But yeah, so we're just waiting for people to get on. Just give us a moment. We always like to give people time to get situated.
Matisa just joined us.
Hey, Matisa.
Hey, what's going on, Matisa?
So while you guys are on, please go ahead and like or share this live with people you know. Invite them in, tag their names into this. We are excited because we have such a good conversation we're about to have tonight, and we want you guys to be a part of it. We want you to comment, all of that good stuff. What's up, Jason?
Yeah, the more comments we get, the better it can be, you know? So if we ask you guys a question or if it's just something we say and you guys have a comment to it, comment. We love all the comments and all the questions.
Yes.
The interaction you guys give to us, we love it.
Yeah.
Turn, who's got theirs up?
What comment? I do. We do.
Yeah.
I do.
Derrick, you know Derrick's got his up.
All right. So thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Welcome. Well, tonight we may be on a little bit longer. We're going to try to be disciplined because we do have. We want to respect your time as well as our own. But tonight we want to talk about something that we think is very. It's something that in marriages we do a lot of. And that's compromising. So we just want to, talk about that. Do you feel that sometimes compromising is too much? We know that we're supposed to compromise in marriage, but sometimes maybe we sit back and we think, am I compromising way too much? So that's what our question is. So we want you guys to join us in giving us your responses as we also talk about it. So what do you guys think? How do you deal with or matter of fact, let's just talk about what compromise is.
Yeah, what is compromise? So I looked it up for you guys. The definition of compromise is when two sides give up some demands to meet somewhere in the middle. So that's typically what we go through or experience in marriages. We're giving up something to come to the middle of something. You cook, I'll clean. You clean, I'll cook. Whatever. You wash, I'll fold. So you do those compromises. But what we're talking about specifically is when you feel as if you are always compromising in the relationship, where you are cooking every day, you are cleaning after you cook, and your spouse isn't participating, or it seems or appears that your spouse isn't participating with you. So that's kind of the subject that we talked about, and then we started having some discussion amongst the group on what that really means to us all.
So go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, and also when you keep doing the compromising, like Richard was just talking about, how do you, we fall into that compromising and compromising and compromising. How do you get out of that compromising? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people are within that compromising track and they just keep doing it and doing it. But sooner or later they may talk to their spouse about it and tell them, and then the spouse will be like, well, I never knew that. So the point is that we need to communicate these things to our spouses, to each other, so that we don't have to. Sometimes that can get you out of that compromising, because you communicate something with your spouse. I say, hey, Novica, I'm really tired of doing these dishes all the time. She's like, oh, I thought you enjoyed doing the dishes.
Yeah, that's right.
and it's been like 6 months or a year, and I've been doing the dishes, and I'm like, oh, she just thought she ain't helping because she thinks it's something I enjoy.
And you're harboring resentment and anger because you let it go so long. So
Right.
we let things go so long,
Yeah.
and then so then we're stuck holding all that emotional baggage while our spouse is like walking around like with no care in the world.
And
Dry
then
hands.
Right, and sometimes you think you're harboring it, but it's coming out. We were discussing that the other day.
Yeah.
It's written all over your face. It's in your body language. It's coming from somewhere. Something's coming out, and they're like, "Man, what's wrong with him today? What's going on with him?" They don't really know. Even if they actually be like, "I'm fine. I'm good."
Right.
Somebody has to give the definition of compromising.
They probably couldn't hear it.
Yes.
Let me see if I can find that definition again.
There was a noun and a verb. The verb, I liked the verb.
There's a noun and a verb. Which one are we talking about?
No, that's not the right definition. But I'll use this definition. It's a mutual agreement between the parties. So in a marriage, a compromise would be that you give something, the other person takes something. You take something, the other person gives something. And I think the example that I used initially was washing the dishes and drying the dishes, or washing the clothes and folding the clothes. So one person's going to do the other. You're meeting in the middle to accomplish whatever task it is. But the burden falls when you may be doing something and you haven't communicated to your spouse or your mate, for that matter, that you are doing this as a sense of compromising, that we're coming together as a team to accomplish this task, and then your team member's not there to help support you in whatever you're trying to do.
And a compromise also can be, you don't like football, but your husband does. But you sit or you go to a football game, you buy your husband those football tickets and you go to the football game with your husband. That's a compromise also. Or your husband knows that you like, the ballet. And so your husband buy you those tickets and he goes to the ballet with you, that's a compromise also. Or, your husband doesn't like Mexican food, but he always takes you to eat Mexican food, or always goes to the restaurants you like, and he sacrifices what he really likes, but always goes to the restaurants that you like. Those are compromises also.
Yes.
that we tend to compromise on also. It's not always just about chores either.
Right.
We compromise in other areas
Yes.
of our life also.
Right.
Yeah, like I was thinking about how sometimes as family members, we may compromise our weekend with our spouse to be with our in-laws or with our parents. So, if you're used to doing Sunday dinners with your parents, and so every Sunday you're like, but babe, that's what we're supposed to do on Sundays. My family's been doing this for many years. But are you compromising your family time because you're going to something that you traditionally have done for so many years with your family, and you're compromising that time. You're taking something away from your relationship. So it's again, like you said, it's not just tasks, it's not just things that you're doing as far as dates or those kinds of things. It could just be your time. Are you compromising your time in your relationship as well?
And it's also related to, I'm going to throw a curveball in here like I did yesterday, but it's also related to boundaries. You need to establish boundaries in your relationship, even when you're having compromises amongst each other, because if you don't and you're not communicating, then that's what leads to resentment. And there are marriages out there today that have been married for a long period of time, and individuals have just gone to their corners just doing what they do. There is no compromise in a relationship. That's my responsibility. That's your responsibility. And as time goes on, we build a sense of resentment for doing that. I know for Angel and I, one of the things always is comical for us is taking out the garbage. You know, that I just don't understand why taking out the garbage is a gender responsibility. I just haven't got there with that. But I'm always taking out the garbage, and I know when I take it out, I'm like, why am I taking out this garbage again? I'm sick and tired of taking out this garbage. Now, I can be chivalrous and take out the garbage because I'm a gentleman and things of that sort, but sometimes it just, yeah.
But I think about when you feel, does anyone feel like when they're not speaking up, it's because they're trying to avoid the conflict. So you're compromising because you want to avoid conflict, because if you speak up and say something, then it's, oh, well, here's another argument.
Right.
So how do you deal with those kind of situations?
And that's really hard to deal with sometimes, because we deal with that, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, we don't mind if we share, do you?
No.
So.
She's like, I don't know. She said that like
You on a line though, you gotta have a fine line.
Yeah. Be careful.
So there's nobody at fault, okay? But I'm a saver. You guys already know that. I'm the one who's penny pincher, and she's not as much of a penny pincher. But she has things that she has to do for an event that she's got coming up. And what had happened was
you gonna use that?
She didn't know about that.
You got a disclaimer.
But what happened was she purchased something for this and didn't discuss it with me. We usually discuss all of our purchases because, you know, that's just what couples should do to make sure that your finances are right. And it's just a respect thing also, that you're not just going out blowing your money on whatever. But anyway, she purchased the stuff. It came in the mail, and I said something to her about it, and she said, well, I really didn't want to have to be bothered with you going to...
You pushback.
She didn't want any pushback. But what I explained to her is that I wouldn't have gave her any pushback, but because I know and I support what she's doing. So I know she has to get the things that she has to get, but we need to talk about it and discuss how we're going to pay for these things. You know, are we going to take it from the savings? We're going to use a credit card or whatever. So that's what that was. But she just didn't, you know, she says I always push back.
And I
They
took
can't
them.
see you on
Say they can't see you. I can see you.
Oh, we can see.
Okay.
Okay.
What y'all say?
Come on closer.
Come on over.
Don't hit your fingers.
Hey, Damon, Marvin, and Michelle. And
All right,
Jordan.
so
To the
We
left.
We got comments.
I was gonna say this is from Dawn. Dawn said that the key word, she thinks the key word here is mutual.
Yeah.
The problem comes when one person thinks they are the only one compromising,
yeah.
and that And one of the things that I was also going to say is that there's a thin line between like sacrificial love versus like a compromise. Like sacrificial love is, okay, I'm gonna do this for you because you like this, or I may not want to do this, but I'm going to do it. That's the sacrificial part that we do. I don't think that's under the umbrella of a compromise, because a compromise is we're both coming together, finding a mutual ground to work with. And I mean, yeah, we might have to give up some stuff, but I don't think that that's the same thing as
The sacrificial.
the sacrificial.
Because that's the verb.
Action.
The verb is to compromise, means to give up some demands and agree on something less than what was originally wanted. So I may want my 100-inch flat screen TV, and then I can't get that, so I get my so I get my 99-inch flat screen TV. That's a compromise right there.
And you know, and not to take away, because we want you guys to know that we know that in order to make a marriage work, there has to be sacrifice. I mean, we want to get spiritual here. We have to recognize that the marriage is fashioned after Christ and the church. And what was that all about? It was about sacrifice and love. And so that's what we still have to model in our marriages. So when you're sacrificing, it's not for you to take that and be like, oh man, they done got one up on me, or oh, they done took advantage of me. It's not about it's not about that. It's not about being taken advantage of. It's about being the one who loves the most, and you know, taking the time to sacrifice some things so that you can show your spouse how much you love them.
Yes.
But it always go ahead.
What I was going to say, to add on to what Novica said, without expectation.
Yeah.
You know, that's the mindset. That's the Christian mindset that, you know, when Christ is in you and the Holy Spirit is within you, then there's things that you don't need of the world. And one is, I don't need to be resentful because somebody's doing something or because I didn't get what I wanted, because that stuff is fulfilled. Now, that's a struggle in our humanity and our spirituality, so you'll struggle through that. But if you see yourself always being resentful, get some counseling.
Now, I do want to address this whole, you know, LJ's example.
Don't be resentful.
Clean it up.
No, what I was going to say is that was, and I have to take responsibility for that. And I told him, and you know, and that's what we always talk about. Everything that we talk about always goes right back to communication.
Yes. Everything.
And so I had to be honest and be like, I had to own up to that. Yes, I did that, because I just didn't want to hear the pushback. Because for me, I always feel like there's pushback on things, because LJ's his first nature, because he is frugal and he's very conscious about money, his first nature is to push back on when it comes to spending, to, you know, let's see, you know, so I get that, but I took on too much responsibility on how I felt like he was going to react. And I think we do that a lot in our marriages, is that we take on too responsibility. We do things to shy away from, you know, conflict and all of that, and we take on too much responsibility, so then we start getting resentful, we start, you know, getting on edge, and
our tolerance is lower.
Yeah, tolerance gets low because we're taking on too much responsibility.
But you got to realize that conflict is it can actually be good in a marriage. You know what I mean? It can help to bring you back together. Depends on how you deal with it also.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? On how you deal with the conflict.
And sometimes you play things up in your head that doesn't really happen, you know what I mean? You think things are going to happen, and you be like, oh, I know she's going to react this way, and so because I think she's going to react this way, I'm not, before you even go to the situation. So, you know, and Susan and I just talked about that, because we both do the same thing. So I say, well, I know she's going to react like this, so because she's going to react like this, I know I'm not going to say anything. And she says the same thing. Well, I know he's going to react like this, so because he's going to react like this, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say this to him. So you know, the enemy's playing in our mind that, well, y'all not going to talk. So if I don't get them to talk, and I'm playing in their mind not to get them to talk, and they go their separate way and do their separate thing, and then when they come together, well, well, why? And then if you would have just talked to each other in the first place, and it wouldn't have been that bad. And it's like, and it's always like that. And you know, and I think, you know, we always think, well, if I go talk to mom and dad, or if I would have talked, no.
Talk to your husband.
Yeah, just talk to your husband and your wife. Yeah.
And you have to sit down with each other. I mean, it shouldn't be in a sense of conflict when you're trying to discuss these things. Conflict is good, like LJ said, in a marriage, but to sit down and talk about it. Talk about those things that are on your heart, those things that are driving you crazy or driving you towards a sense of resentment. You need to have those discussions.
So Jason, you had made a comment, you can't keep count of how many times you sacrifice versus how many times she sacrificed.
We talked
about that. We talked about how when you are compromising, you're not supposed to do the ticks.
You can't tell me. I got a good tally sheet on my phone. Richard.com.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's not healthy. You know, just like Richard was talking about, you're supposed to do it without expectation. Yeah. So you aren't, I mean, it is fair to look at it like, dang, I do sometimes feel like I'm compromising more. But that's where you talk to your spouse and say, look, babe, I feel like I'm compromising you more on this than you are. You know, can we talk about it?
And, you know, it's okay to say no.
Right.
You know, there comes a time that, like Angel was saying, that You talk, but if you feel you're compromising more, you know, you can say, no, I'm not going to do it this time. But when you say no, explain yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying no. I don't think we should do this time, or no, I'm not going to do this time because. Just don't say no and walk away, leaving everybody's feelings up in the air, wondering, well, what's wrong with him? You know what I mean? And you know, right.
But you have to be mindful too. You know, both parties have to be mindful, because if a no does come, are you mindful that you've compromised before? That the situation has occurred before, and your husband or your wife has already compromised, or once or twice or third. Are you being mindful of that? Because if you're not, then it's all about you. It's not about the relationship.
That's good. That's good.
It can't be about it can't be about you. It's got to be about the relationship.
Right.
And that's good that you say that, because everything should always come back around to you self-examining yourself before anything. And so I think that yes, you might feel that you're doing more, but before you go to your spouse and blow up about it, you need to step back. You need to pray about it. You need to ask the Lord to show you what about that situation has caused you to have harbor feelings, has caused some issues or some anger or whatever is causing you to feel negatively. Because it could be something, it could be any number of things that's going on within you, within your upbringing, your past relationships. So you can't so you have to look at that first before you can go to your spouse and be like, So, but once you do that, then you can go to your spouse and you can have a conversation about how you feel. This is something we also was discussing, is that when you go to your spouse, to tell them how you feel about maybe you feel you're compromising too much, that you do it in a way that is not critical to your spouse. Because as soon as you say, well, I feel like I'm doing all this stuff and you ain't doing nothing, or you always doing this and I always got to do this for you and I'm tired of it, it's immediately the defense wall is going to come up.
Yep. It's coming.
And nothing is going to get resolved like that.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been there.
I think it's important, like we've talked about, just to talk. I know there's been times when I felt like I was doing all this stuff, and you know, I think about the situation, you know, we take it back to the dishes. Like, I might be doing the morning dishes and he's doing the evening dishes, and he never sees what I do and I never see what he does. So I always think that I'm washing the dishes, he always thinks that he's washing the dishes, and we both sit up here frustrated. Why? Because we ain't talking to each other about who's doing the dishes. So it just goes back to, like I said, we've had times where I felt some kind of way about Derrick not doing this, that, or the other. And when I start talking to him and I realize and I recognize the compromises he has made, it just softens my heart. It's like, wow, he's done this and he's done that. And I'm just like, wow. So I think sometimes we have to step back from ourselves.
Yeah.
The same thing happened to me with these clothes. These clothes.
We talk about clothes
all the time because, I don't know, it's a priority for my wife to make sure the clothes are washed. So that is the thing that she's taken on. And by the way, she doesn't want me to wash clothes. Okay, that's a whole nother story though. Yeah.
The littlest kid.
Okay, so the fact of the matter is that she washes the clothes, but she doesn't put them up.
Stay clean.
This workload is going on in the washroom, and I'm unaware of it. Then all of a sudden, I'll get a text. She'll call me. Hey, while you at it, you think you get them clothes for me? And I go in there thinking it's like, it's Savine's clothes, the 6-year-old clothes. No, it's grown folks' clothes in there. I'm like, and as I'm putting them up, I'm getting resentful. I'm like, why am I always folding up these clothes? Why am I always doing it? I mean, I don't know why. But then I thought about it. I said, and she's washing like 5 and 6 load of clothes for the whole house. And I'm just putting Cameron's clothes up. So I had to self-evaluate to come to that and go, okay, I just got to get this done. Now, I'm still not happy with it.
But good process.
But I think also, like, what Novica was talking about as far as when you when you're taking a step back and you're doing your self-evaluation before you go to your spouse, you think about history. You look at what happened with your parents, or you look at what happened with your grandparents, and you saw that. I mean, my grandmother used to serve my grandfather like a plate. Like, he would sit up and have his tray table like ready, like, you know, and she would do everything. And then when she would get frustrated at him, she would make him come and get it. That was her way. And so, you know,
He
that
knew he
whole
was in
he
trouble.
knew he was in trouble. Right? And so when you think back, before you come towards your spouse, think of those things that you're like, what you aren't going to do. Richard has come at me like very defensively on things that I haven't even done yet, but he just thinks of historically of the things that he has experienced or he has seen, and he doesn't want to I don't want to compromise because that's not what I'm going to be like. Okay, babe, I'm not saying that that's how it's going to be.
Yes,
but,
you can't be defiant in every situation. That is one of the problems that I have in our relationship. I am always pushing the boundaries of being defiant. So whatever goes on, I want to say no to everything. You know, everything. It's like, after a while, it doesn't even make sense to yourself. You know, you go in the bathroom and look in the mirror, you be like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? That was a benefit to you too. But yeah, you got to work on yourself.
That's right. It always goes back to self.
Yeah.
Right.
Self and communication.
Self and communication. I mean, it's critical. You know, I know for me, there have been times when I have compromised just to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
I
We all
know.
have.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have.
But you know, I think when you truly love them, and you love your wife or you love your husband, you know, you're willing to compromise through it all. You know what I mean? And is compromising to avoid conflict good? No, it's not. It's not good. But life is a compromise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you say you're gonna marry this person, you know, you're taking on their burdens, you're taking on, that's a compromise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're compromising from the day you say you do to the day you die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a compromise.
And when do you know how to pick that battle? You know, like Richard says he's defiant on everything. And there's times when I'm like, babe, you do not have to be defiant on everything. Like, pick the battle that you want to be
Right.
defiant on.
Right.
You know?
Right.
What's important to you?
Right.
Yeah.
It's all
It's all
important.
important.
Everything's important to me.
That's that Marine. You don't want to lose that battle. He's going in, knees and elbows down, behind in the air. You're gonna lose, ain't you?
But the unfortunate thing is that I may think I've won the battle, you know, in our relationship when I am defiant, but I've lost the war.
Yeah.
Now that's the problem. It messes with our relationship, and it affects our communication, and then compromise becomes an issue. Whatever you do, now she becomes resentful because she's doing something, and it's just this spiraling effect down the rabbit hole that you don't need to go through. Self-evaluation, but also being obedience. That's another thing I was going to bring up, obedience, because if we read the Word, God's telling us how we need to conduct ourselves. And through the Holy Spirit, as we renew our minds daily, then those things should start to exude through who you are. I mean, if you see too much of me and you see less of Jesus, then you can probably figure out that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do with my relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
Marvin Jordan says that is the purpose of relationship. It's twofold: to learn about yourself and to serve your partner.
Yes, sir.
And that is the truth. You
Yes.
got to, we're learning about ourselves all the time, because the Bible tells us to decrease so that He may increase. So He's working in us all the time, trying to change us from who this flesh has, who we think we are.
And it doesn't matter how long we've been married.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then to serve your partner. If you truly love your spouse, like Derrick said, like, I love doing things for my wife. I love doing things for my wife, and they bring me pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of things that I do for her, and I do them because of that.
Right.
Paula it's kind of an inside joke. That's geared towards me and LJ. If that happened.
I can only imagine.
That was great. Thank you so much. We have hot water because because of the sacrifice and the compromise.
Let her husband come over
Appreciate
here.
She came too.
Oh,
it
did
was
she
way
come?
past her bedtime.
But she compromised and she was really nice. Honey,
Yeah.
can we go home now? I'm really tired. It's past my bedtime.
Good job.
Oh,
That helped all of us.
yes.
So, you guys, I think that, are you guys comfortable with what we just talked about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, we had other conversation outside of this that we're going to explore. I mean, I'm thinking we might talk about gender roles in marriage at one point, at some time, because that was at some point. Because that was a good one we talked about too.
Yeah.
So you guys look forward to that conversation, gender roles in marriage. We're gonna blow that up all out the water.
Man, a strong woman taking over. Man, that got kind of woo. A strong woman coming in and doing. Wow, it was like whoa. That was a good part of that conversation yesterday, and we know that there's a lot of strong women out there holding the families down. I mean, holding the families down. Kelly, Garrett, you just got on. We know that you're one of those people. Jamie, Michelle, all y'all out there holding the families down. Marquita, we know y'all out there holding the families down. So look for that, you know.
But then there's some holding the families down because they don't have a choice.
Exactly.
Right.
Because they got the lazy man who's not doing anything, stepping
Woo!
up, you know. So hey,
Hey.
I'm
Take
just
those
saying.
teeth out that
I'm
flesh.
just saying. Hey.
We learned in our men's ministry group there are some women and some men out there that are carrying wounds
Yes.
from their mothers and their fathers that raised them a certain
That's
way,
good.
and then
Yes.
they wind up getting married, and now you have a strong woman that's trying to exert herself for no reason. There's no need to do it because you have a husband that's loving, that's willing to compromise, but yet still you come bringing it to him every day. Bam. Like, whoa.
Yes.
And the same thing happens for husbands to their wives. I'm sorry.
Nope. It was exciting. And we hope that you guys will tune in for our next conversation. We are so glad. I know, Jason, it's time to go. All right. Well, we thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you got a little something from it. I hope you got a chuckle and a laugh and all of that. We hope that we blessed you. Please, again, share this live with all of your friends and family and all of that. And we also, we're going to leave our little message for you, and that is,
Be the one who loves the most in your marriage. Love you guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Hit finish.
Yep.